Welcome, Time Twisters, to my in-depth look at Quantum Break. Now, sadly, I wanted to cover the PC release and Xbox One in a single video, but as I had to buy both copies, I, now in hindsight, foolishly chose to purchase the game with the cross-buy option from the Xbox store. This means that although I got my Xbox One released on the 5th, I am, as of today, yes, that is the 12th as you watch this, still awaiting my PC code. So I'll have to delay my look at the UWP release and its already rumbling issues for myself at a later date. So with that slightly frustrating scenario out of the way, I will be looking at the Xbox One release here with this in-depth technical analysis. The performance view of the game I have also covered, and you can check that out in the link below or on screen. Now, with this video centering on the impressive success and sacrifices the game team and engine have furnished gamers with in Quantum Break. So let's not waste any more time and break that seal. So with my introduction sorted, I feel it was relevant to talk about the intended aims of the game, and also it helps explain some of the choices made. And as the love and infatuation of time has always been central with Remedy and Sam Lake, the game puts that forward right from the start, and it means that the engine and design of the game is concentrated on delivering the wow factor of a high budget actioner, but all at your command. Now remember this fact. As you work through the first chapter learning your skills, the efforts here pay off over and over again. Volumetric light is liberally scattered across the game with bleeding sun rays in abandoned warehouses, distant floodlights, moonlit skylights and torches all have a nice solidity and interaction within the world and characters. But this is just the tip of the visual iceberg. With time-shifting powers comes mind-bending effects. Screw responsibility! And here is with both visual and audio-wise, the choices and package really merge into a jaw-dropping and ear-bursting display. Touching on the audio side first, we have pretty solid writing and delivery across the board. Brotherly banter, witty dialogue and believable megalomaniac rants are all authentically presented. Sound direction, occlusion, propagation and processing are all of a high level up now with film production. But once the huge battles, structural time bubble puzzles and time flying years happen, it notches up another level. Throw in your powers in a decent 7.1 or such system, it lavishes your ears like few others. As time slows down, voices change pitch, distortion on gunshots, explosions, with the relevant sound effects all adding to its majestic impact. With raycast handled all in real time across multiple objects and sound gates, the CPU is really pumped with such a vast amount of post-processing work, which includes rewind, extend, reverb, distort and much more. It stands as possibly one of the richest soundscapes of the game, with only Battlefront at present falling into a similar level. The only negative is that variety, pitch and variance of samples are not higher. This means that quickly gunshots, ricochets and such can start to become familiar, thus repetitive as you play, and never really stand out. It loses some impact here, but it's hardly a glaring issue and many may not even notice this, but I am not one of them, which is a key for my role here, I guess. Now, the amount of work involved in the game's sound is very impressive, and using the audio plugin WWise collaborated on its own synth handler, QGrain, that handles the manipulation of the sounds in real time. As multiple tracks have to run in parallel, flipping between them during stutters, memory was saved by using compressed files rather than PCM sampling, allowing the stretching of the game's great soundtracks, voices and all objects in action that can and do skip, flow and rewind. And the results speak for themselves. Well, they're heard anyway.
Jesus! Gotta move!
Sound taking a leading role, it is no surprise or detriment to say that it is regularly pushed aside from the limelight with the effects. How they have created the rendering of geometry is vital to the impact of your powers, and at times leaves you... Well, yeah, Dominic, that's pretty much bang on. Now, as you twist, pull, push and generally abuse time to your will, the world is like a puppet on your Rolex. In the game's set pieces of action, the world around you feels real as your actions impact on not only the enemies, but your surroundings. Frozen in time characters can be pushed and pulled as they float, objects procedurally break down from gunshots, explosions, and your force from dashing can rip up far more than just the rulebook. Forcing characters through the air and giving you a few more bullet time (TM) seconds to pop off shots feels satisfying and looks great. But the distortion effects mix up the dynamic manipulation of objects as you aim, blast or dash. Using screen space buffer projection within its hexagonal prisms works well, and as the game uses screen space effects pretty much all the time in play, it's a clever choice. The vertex manipulation is both exceptionally well executed and rarely has any errors. Even destroying a car, killing your foes within a stutter, then it all simply reverses and undoes your destruction. The sheer amount of memory being used for this within the stutters and its screen filters used to manipulate this in real time is possibly, for me, the most impressive aspect of the engine. It can all be summed up in that if time ever did fail, stutter and collapse, I now feel even more prepared than ever to plan for what happens. With sound force fields used within its audio system, it can be as easily visually represented with your hexagon cubes of focus powers, bending and refracting the frame contained like glass. Time and time again, couldn't resist. You have so many moments and actions in the game that defy anything we have seen in real time before, and this is key from the game's cinematics. They all flow between one and another in real time. The fact that the best and most bombastic sections are all in gameplay, years pass by as you walk through a warehouse, bridges collapse and rebuild before you, and combat ensues throughout the most dynamic, destructible levels in modern games. Lighting all adds to this system, along with screen space reflections, image-based lighting with voxel construction and irradiance probes. Now, I have covered in my preview in more detail, but the short version is that the solution is a mixture of real-time, pre-calculated and multiple sample points to deliver these results. The 3D texture data built up within the cascaded voxel array using multiple sample points and sources gives the game arguably the most dynamic and convincing lighting this side of a J.J. Abrams set. And yes, that includes lens flare. With huge leaps on in not only time of day but centuries, only a real-time solution could be used, which includes obviously global illumination, handling the bounce of light across both static and dynamic objects and characters, leaving Quantum Break with possibly one of the most visually striking lighting models in release games to date, and explains some of the sacrifices made elsewhere, but that in no way lessens or diminishes just what they have achieved here. Some issues do occur occasionally, with texture failing to occlude behind objects, giving a cheap look as lights or such bleed through walls. Flashes can also pop at times when hitting some areas. With such a dramatic world, plethora of powers and effects, this would be more than enough, but Remedy and its Northlight engine have other ideas. It must be said that right now I think that Jack Joyce and Paul Serene stand as some of the best looking characters in game. Even with the camera pressed in like a crazed paparazzi snapper, you can see the models are the same as the cutscenes. Not only impressive to look at, but also using the same facial animation system the team used for the real-time and pre-rendered cinematics. Licensing Dimensional Images 4D facial capture head rigs meant that a precise and fast workflow enabled the team to use the tech to deliver the smallest and most intricate facial movements, taking multiple camera feeds from a head-mounted camera at high resolution and at up to 60 FPS captures as the actors went through the scenes. Now, this needs no marker points like older systems and takes the raw captured data, which can be imported into a 3D modelling application like Maya. This rather scary demonstration of the flat data pulled and created into a UV map laid out like a skinned man. But map this to your animation rig and vertex animation data, you can replay the capture performance on whatever model you like. Now, this obviously helped with the main actor shift and the game's motion capture sequences and acting, allowing this data to not be discarded and also reused, evident by the same section from the 2014 showing still being present, albeit with changes in the final game. Impressive stuff, and this does not mean that the work is as simple as I've just covered. Instead, it would have been a hell of a lot of work. The 3D models still need to be sculpted, rigged, not to mention the mapping of the captured data into the relevant animation tools. But it helps much faster iterations of work and delivers the great content we can see in the game. What I really like is the detailed animation and expressions all happen in gameplay, as many parts of the story flow as you play. Stopping and watching could still be cutscene quality, obviously aside the extra shader passes and source lighting changes. Texture quality is good, and paired with the game's impeccable PBR managed pipeline, does deliver incredible looking materials from the skin of characters, jackets. The diffuse is very good using natural light on walls, wood, cloth and in moonlight. In contrast to the high specular and shiny gloss laboratories and equipment, the scope is well balanced and implemented, and not only improves the visual impact it delivers, which is both at its highest and most impressive within the near pre-rendered looking but real-time cutscenes. With very detailed character models, subsurface scattering on characters, best seen here on the ears and nose, but it is throughout the game. The game does have a small selection of pre-rendered sections that are still in-engine, but this points to time constraints more than performance, as these sections are not hugely different from the main game aside the fact that they are rendered at a native resolution, allowing you to see the bump in clarity from the game's standard buffer resolution. It is clearer, but not to the level that a simple 720 to 1080 count would ever suggest, but we'll come to that in a moment. It does have small issues though, with models and animation being praiseworthy. Aside Jack himself, the hair in the game varies from okay to plastic. This is best noticed from the almost Action Man hairdo of Paul at the start. Also, in-game animation and control can be quite stiff and digital. As you walk or turn, the acceleration feels random at times, and as I play on hard and auto aim is off, it took longer than normal to become accustomed to this. Exaggerated with the game not being a cover-based shooter and instead fast action and moving game, which I really like, but it means that Jack hides behind objects contextually and can look like he's been caught short at camping, lurching up and down, ready to drop. Again, behind objects and aiming has this same issue, and it only stands out due to the game's high standards. The choices are right for the speed of control and gameplay here, but it does look and feel wooden at times. With all that done, we are left with the last area that many may have had as the biggest issue, and as I've covered in vivid detail how these reconstruction techniques work, there's a link on screen, I will not wander into that in depth again. But the game renders a native geometry buffer at 1280 by 720 for each new frame, as the game also uses a temporal anti-aliasing solution not unlike SMAA for example. This means that previous frames data is used and merged with each frame to smooth out the transition and frequency areas. In addition to this, the game uses 4x MSAA or EQAA to smooth out the edges of geometry. This is effectively super sampling each pixel by 4 times to improve the result and performance, as it only samples objects rather than the entire frame. These, combined with the game's post effects of high quality bokeh depth of field, per object velocity motion blur and camera, add in film grain, bloom and some other filters, does soften the look of the title, but in no way is this a bad thing. The most important part of this is that the data used for the anti-aliasing is also used to reconstruct the frame back to a 1080 image, and this is done over 4 frames, or in real money every 134 milliseconds, meaning, as I stated before, as you move the frame can look worse, but even at moderate movement the image is always higher than the 720 it has been labelled with. The softness in the game comes much more from the post effects and the temporal AA, more than the sheer number of pixels. This is striving to look more like a film or offline CGI, as per the Order 1886, which also had complaints about its soft display. That is a sharper game, but both games strive for the same thing, and that is to reduce shimmer and aliasing noise, and even though Quantum Break is not perfect, it at no point ever looks like a 720 game, whatever that means. A game or engine has to be designed around consistency. There's sections in the game that could have easily been native 1080, like here for example, but it's all designed around giving an even performance and quality across the game in its high points and low points. Now, higher resolution is always objectively better, but it is far from the single or most important area of image quality, and the compromises here are, in my opinion, the best result that has delivered a game where you can be welled, enthralled and enjoy with its high octane action, stunning cinematics and time bending controls. In fact, resolution is far from an issue for me. The resolution of the abundant SSR in the game is noticed more than this, and it is actually one of the high levels I've seen. No, in fact, my biggest issue is the screen space reflections and the ghosting from the temporal anti-aliasing solution, along with the reconstruction that can cause weird errors in the game and some artifacting looking like you're staring at a mirror in a mirror. You can see what I mean here, but they would have gotten away with this with the target of the game being this time stutter technique, but I highly doubt they've put this in there intentionally. But these techniques never improve if nobody starts them at some point, and in reality the price is not really that high at all. Yes, it can look unstable at times, not always by intention mind, and the soft IQ is not for all, but then this has been clear from the start of the aims and target. If the resolution was not the talking point before launch, most would have guessed that it was 900p, and it would have been happier all round. Ultimately, Remedy has delivered the single most impressive visual and technical showcase on the Xbox One, and generally up there with the best in games overall. Sporting a long list of technology must-haves that other games may have some, but here they're all in and delivered in a complementing package. As you play it, you are impressed and engaged in equal measure, and the fact the game's most stunning work is all within your control is even more of a treat. If the pixel count offends, then this game is not for you, but from its pretty solid performance, simply gorgeous lighting, assets and motion captured scenes, all wrapped up in effects ILM would be proud of, then for Xbox One owners, Remedy has served up a technical showcase, and an enjoyable one at that. As always, I hope you guys and girls enjoyed this. If you did, then please hit the like and subscribe button, as it really helps me immensely, and I appreciate each and every one of you that does. Leave your thoughts and feedback below. Please check out even more detail on the on-site article and my other videos, including a spoiler-free review. And with that, my time is up. It will get us all. You guys and girls take care, and I'll see you very soon on the next one.
God, fuck me. That was hardcore.